All right, thanks everybody. Will Hayes, Lucidworks CEO, was supposed to be here. I'm standing in for him. I promise I'll try and be as much fun as he might have been. We talk a lot about things like digital transformation and digital disruption and digital dexterity and all these things. What do they really mean? Why is it important? Why should we actually care? And there's a lot of these buzzwords being thrown around. The path to answering these for us goes through a couple of interesting trends. One is that millennials are sort of, we'd say, invading the workplace. These digital natives, as it were, have kind of been born and brought up after the advent of the internet. They're fully immersed in social media, and how they think about work and what they do is very different from the way that I thought about work when I started 20 years ago. The second big thing is that AI is also invading the workplace. It's pervasive and ubiquitous, and you could almost say that anything that can be automated is likely to be automated. And what this then means is that for the future of work, people and machines kind of have to work together harmoniously. And that the future of business will really be about the companies that empower workers to create and innovate and design together with data, with AI. And so this whole process is what we call digital business clarity. Lucidworks, for any of you who may not know, makes search and discovery software. We kind of largely target the global 2000, so some of the biggest companies in the world use our stuff. Our roots go deep and strong in NLP and search and machine learning and things like that. So we think that we're kind of uniquely suited for this challenge. In a way, you can think about search as sort of the perfect UI, right? It doesn't require a user manual. It's easy for anyone to understand and use. And it hides a lot of complexity. Anybody who's done enterprise search and knowledge management, you all know kind of the challenges involved in data dispersion and security and gathering and creating insights and delivering them to people at very large scale. So these emerging technologies, and some of them have been around for a while, we believe are kind of crucial for empowering this next generation of the digital workforce and to really make digital transformation happen. If you will, the question that we ask is, how do people and machines work together to solve some of these things? And as a company, when we started thinking about these questions, it was a couple things popped to mind. One is, what do they mean for us? How do we invest in R&D? What kind of product decisions do we choose to do? How do we go to market? Where do we go to market? Do we decide to not do certain things? And for us, the process of answering those questions really went through our customers, who, lucky for us, happen to be some of the most innovative and interesting companies in the world. So in many ways, we not only have a front row seat to how they think about the digital workforce, we also have the added benefit of being an engineering organization which can pull some of this stuff off. So all that said, we kind of have fundamentally a different viewpoint about what it takes to be successful in this new era of digital business. And for us, it really does not come down to just the data alone. It's really not about collecting or storing or managing data and all the infrastructure that goes along with it. And this is sort of because forever we've built technology oftentimes just for the sake of technology. Sometimes it's because the engineering challenge is interesting and stimulating, and we don't know better. But we do know this, though, is that the next generation of technologies have to be able to empower and enable people, and it can't be just about storing and collecting and managing data. They really have to go much farther than that and empower people to go do things. And again, this goes back to this point I was making earlier, that anything that can be automated probably will be, which means that people then have to focus on things that machines cannot do, which involves design, thinking, and being creative, and being able to deal with flexible and changing workflows. So, put this another way is that despite the best efforts of the big data industrial complex, I'm in Silicon Valley, where VCs have spent dozens or hundreds of billions of dollars into propping up various big data companies over the last decade, including ours, that most of these projects have ended up being shelfware. They don't fundamentally work. And they don't work for one big reason, in that they focus on data and data storage and data complexity. They don't consider people as such. And so in our view, the battleground is really shifting. It's shifting not only because millennials are invading the workplace and AI is automating everything. It's also because our view on what we expect out of technology is changing. Many of you, if you go back home tonight, you might talk to your Alexa device and ask it to buy you things on Amazon. You might talk to Google now and ask for what the weather is like to wherever you're flying off to. Netflix might give you suggestions on what to watch next. So our experiences in our consumer lives are rich and rewarding and assistive and helpful. Our work life oftentimes doesn't look anything like that at all. So when my daughter, who's 13, starts to go off into work hopefully in the next 10 years or so, what she's going to want out of it looks very different from the way that I was used to doing things. And so this is why we fundamentally say that the battleground is shifting. The expectation from people is that at work is that they have to be able to use technology in an assistive and helpful way. And it can't just be about going out there and asking it questions and waiting for results back. So it could be about a customer service agent asking to find out what the next best product is to put in front of a customer, or a research scientist working on a hard problem, connecting to another research scientist in a related area, and their connection being based on mutual topics that they're interested in. Technology can help and assist in all these kinds of ways, particularly knowledge management, search, and the kinds of things that we're immersed in. But whether this young customer success agent whose first job out of college is to help people diagnose problems, or a PhD who's had 30, 40 years of experience in working things, each of these people has to be able to find information precisely at the moment when they need it, or find access to other people who might be able to help them do their work better. And companies that do this will be able to be more innovative, to delight their customers more, and to be able to streamline, optimize, and get more efficiencies out of their data and technology investments. And those that don't are going to be left in the dust. And so we, almost want to say that customers or companies that foster a culture of innovation, foster a culture of collaboration will win. They'll win not only because they've understood the importance of using machines to enrich the lives of humans at work, they'll do so because they put humans first and machines as a way of augmenting things that people do. So some market-leading companies have figured this stuff out. In our own world, I'll just give you two examples on this. Going back to this notion of millennials or digital natives, my friend Josh, who's sitting over here, is a prodigious user of Reddit. For those of you who don't know, Reddit is the 5th or 6th biggest website on the planet. And in many ways, it's the front door to the internet. It's where people get together and talk about any number of different things. And search and knowledge management technologies, recommendation engines really power the experience for people there. And it's really in using AI to provide assistive, immersive experiences for people as they're engaging with content. Red Hat, recently acquired by IBM, uses KM and AI to help their support agents be better at their jobs. They've dropped their service tickets by 50,000 and reduced their cost of ownership by over 90% by using AI to help service agents understand what to do and do their jobs better, even before oftentimes customers raise issues to them. And there are very many more examples like this. So the question then you might have is, well, how does this stuff actually happen? And it happens in the case of Reddit and in the case of Red Hat and any number of other folks, the SAS Institute, that they've kind of pivoted from thinking about the world from a data-centric, data-first perspective to a human-centered model. And I'll just call out a couple of these pillars. And that the number one thing is that for many of these companies who have approached it this way, is that it's not really about the data. It's about people, first of all. It's about empowering people. And taking it a step further, it's not about simply managing and collecting and storing data. Those are almost table stakes. Any sophisticated system has to be able to do that and has to be able to do so at scale. But it's about applying that data and creating experiences that make sense for people. And so this kind of requires a shift in focus from thinking about just architecture and IT and the systems complexity involved in it. Those things aren't going to go away, but you have to go kind of beyond that and to think about, well, how do we take this and make it make sense for people in every day and everything that they do? And kind of shifting the mindset from thinking about activity and learning from, or looking only at the past, to thinking about intent and what does it mean for people at all times. So if you're with me so far, you probably want some details on how to achieve this techno-utopia. In our thinking at Lucidworks, we've kind of tried to crystallize this into a few points, and we apply them to how we design products. And maybe this is helpful to you as well. Number one is that systems have to automate processes, and the automation has to be intelligent. The complexity around data and entitlements and security is not going to go away. But you can't force people to have to deal with that all the time. If they do, then they're not creating, they're not innovating, they're not working with each other, and they're fundamentally not solving interesting problems. The second thing is that we think about it as a unified data layer. This kind of goes around with this ever-present idea of data silos or data dispersion. This problem is also not going away. In fact, it's probably getting bigger, because if you think about this explosion of function-specific workflow and analytics tools, especially SaaS-based tools, there's analytics tools for any possible workflow you can imagine. The trick then in making people and empowering people and letting them apply design thinking to what they do is by creating software or buying software that abstracts a lot of these problems and shifts it from individual analysts or knowledge workers from having to deal with it. If you get that far, then we think about systems as being intent-driven. So search engines understand intent. This is the fundamental way in which they're different from databases. But as you think about either buying systems or building them on your own, then this is kind of an interesting way to apply a very simple but powerful shift in thinking, right? That understanding user intent is kind of the key to making this kind of digital disruption, digital transformation actually happen. And if you get this far, then designing systems that abstract away data complexity, think about common business models, and apply an intent-based approach to models can result in multiplier effects. So the next new applications that you build on use the same data infrastructure, use the same common business models, and remove the need to have to do everything on a one-off basis, which then let companies rapidly innovate. And this is where it gets interesting about automation versus innovation. So AI can do rote tasks, and the capabilities will only get better. But humans are able to deal with flexible workflows and changing situations far better than machines can. And customers are unpredictable, societal changes are also unpredictable, and machines are probably not going to be able to do that kind of stuff well. So companies that can, or organizations really, that can figure out how to augment the capabilities of people with machines will likely do well. And so the last thing I'll leave you with is maybe just think about this whole thing as a set of tenets, right? That again, whether you're buying software, you're building software, you're implementing systems, these are potentially 3 helpful takeaways which could be helpful for you. One more time is think about systems as being people-powered and human-centered, not just systems-oriented. And that everything that we build or buy or implement should be designed in a way in which they're helpful to people to maximize every digital moment. The same way that Netflix knows what you want to watch based on the things that you've done before and all the other family members in your house and what they've watched. These same kinds of paradigms can help inside of your organization as well. And that if we approach it this way, then systems and people and processes can really help us compound value and get better every day. So that's all I have. It was pretty short. We have a booth at Lucidworks. If anybody wants to talk further, there are a number of us around. Please come and stop by and say hi. We're happy to discuss this stuff in much more detail.